Well, hello, Barb.
Hi, Cynthia. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
Good, very good.
Good.
It's nice to be home, isn't it?
It is. This working from home is working out, isn't it?
Yeah, really great. It's been a wonderful month too. I'm anxious to tell everybody about it. But before we do that, let's do our intro.
Yeah, you bet. So we are Barb and Cynthia from Yarniversity by River City Yarns. We wanted to make sure we tagged on that by River City Yarns there so you would know we haven't left. We're just transitioning. So Yarniversity is our new concept. It's what we're doing now, and it's a whole lot of fun. And we're doing episode 82 this month, Barb.
My God.
82.
Yeah. Yeah, this is our fall issue, 82. Wow. That's a lot of episodes. I think we figured it out. It's like 6 or 7 years or something.
Yeah, another 2 months, and we'll have 7 years under the needles.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while since we've been doing this. And originally our podcast was about, behind the scenes at the yarn shop, and now it's kind of like behind the scenes at Yarniversity. And
Yeah.
that's what we've got lined up for you. But before we go there, there's a really cool trip coming up in 2024. You want to talk a little
That's
bit
right.
about that?
Sure. Well, this whole Yarniversity concept is all about classes and knit-alongs and events. And, you know, um, the whole Wool, Wine, and Wheels event, it was a knitting retreat that took us to Jasper National Park and back. And it's something that we used to do in the shop every year. I think we did 8 of them, 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah, and remind me again, Barb, why did we stop?
Well, it was because the train changed their schedule. It used to work out perfect. We'd leave Edmonton Friday uh, evening, or no, Friday morning, and get up to Jasper around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the train would drop us off there and continue on to Vancouver, where it, turned around and came back on the following Monday. So it was perfect. We could spend a long weekend up at Jasper National Park. Now they come
No.
through Edmonton on Friday at midnight.
Yeah, that
And
doesn't
so,
that doesn't work. It's not a
no.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go into the mountains in pitch dark when you're trying to stay, and you can't stay awake, right?
Well, right. And I mean, we could have done that, but then you'd be sleeping on the train and you wouldn't see anything anyways, and you'd have to wake up at 6 a.m. or so to get off the train. So
Right.
we thought, well, why don't we just make it a little bit more leisurely? So we're working with a travel agent who's done some incredible work to extend our trip from like 4 days to 6 days and 5 nights, all in beautiful hotels. The Hotel McDonald here in Edmonton is going to host everyone at the front end. And then we've got private transfers. They're going to take us from Edmonton to Jasper National Park. And so we're going to be able to see the whole prairies during the daytime and the foothills. And then as we get into the Rocky Mountains, it's going to be spectacular. Then we get off in Jasper and spend 3 nights at the Jasper Park Lodge. Really a nice place. And meals are included, and our headliner, Stephanie Pearl McPhee, has decided to come along with us. We ran into her in Montreal and we reminisced, and she said, well, are you doing those train trips anymore? And I thought, gee, you know what? I should really get on this and see if we can't organize something.
Well, she wasn't the only one either. I mean, I feel like
No.
every time we bumped into somebody from the old days, they would say, are you ever going to do those retreats again? And Stephanie was somebody who had never was never able to come on one of those retreats. I think we brought
Right.
her in for, separate workshops, but we'd never been able to take her on that particular trip to Jasper. So this is
That
really exciting. And I have to say too, what's really intriguing for me is that Stephanie went to the work of planning some new classes for us.
I know. I'm so excited about that too.
Mm.
And, I was lucky enough once to go to her retreat in Port Ludlow, where she had a little bit of spinning and weaving, but she's going to teach a weaving class for us.
Weaving
So,
101. Yeah.
yeah,
I know, I'm really excited about that too.
me too.
And yeah, and I brought home, so it's kind of spoiler alert, but I brought home some yarn from Knit City, Vancouver. Not yarn, sorry. I brought home some hand-dyed fiber from Knit City, Vancouver, and I'm thinking I should get out my wheel and spin it up so that I can use it as the warp yarn, no, weft yarn in my weaving scarf
Yes,
that
absolutely, you should. Can you spin it thin enough?
well, that's just the thing, like, that's the beauty of it, Stephanie says the yarn that you put through, like, that you weave with, not the warp yarn, but the weft yarn, it can be anything you want. Like, it can be thick or
Anything you want.
thin, it could be, thicker, it doesn't have to be particularly strong. I know, I see your wheels turning.
My wheels are turning.
So, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and if you didn't know about it, the place you need to go to get all the information is
Mm,
our website, which is
right.
www.rivercityyarns.com, and just click on events. It's the very first thing, top of the list under events on our
Yeah.
website. We're taking a good-sized group, so if you register right away, there's probably still room for you, but don't wait too long, friends. We really,
Right.
really want you to come, and so, yeah, all the details are on our website, and if you want any more information, you can always, our contact information is on the website as well.
Mhm.
And we're working with
Did I
a lovely man from Fresh Tracks Canada. His name is Robert, and he's taking care of all the travel arrangements.
Right. I was just gonna mention, Cynthia, that the reason why we had to limit the amount of people is because we're taking the train back. And so we get on the train, I think, in the morning. I'm not exactly sure. And that's what the cool thing about the train schedule is you never really know, right? So we're probably going to get on it maybe around noon. And depending on how the train travels and how many stops it has, it could be maybe 6 p.m. before we get off in Edmonton. So we've got one more night at the Hotel McDonald, so that we can kind of, get a good night's sleep before everyone travels back to their homes.
Yeah, I have to say, Barb, and again, I think this is a detail that you and Robert, or you and Fresh Tracks, worked out together. The idea that you need that night after the big travel day to
Yeah,
rest and refresh and be ready to either go home to all the responsibilities that are, in your way, or to go to the airport, or to be picked up for the car ride home. Like that last night where you don't have to worry about, telling people minute by minute where you are so they can arrive at the train station at the right time.
right.
I think it's very thoughtful. So kudos to you and Fresh Tracks for
Well,
coming up with that.
that's the joy of doing this like 7 or 8 times, right? Remember that one year where there was something going on with the train and we had to wait on the tracks out just outside the city of Edmonton? Like it was almost so close we could see it, the lights, but we couldn't go anywhere. And they were phoning their husbands and saying, I don't know how much longer it'll be. And the husbands were saying, well, I'm at the train station waiting for you. And we finally ended up getting in around midnight, which was hours after we were supposed to. So,
There were some chauffeurs, which is, kind of a nice word for saying people who pick you up at places, but there were some
Mhm,
chauffeurs who were a little annoyed, I think. Yeah, for
mhm.
sure. So this is perfectly planned because again, when you're taking via rail, you're just never sure what the train traffic is going to be like. There is only one set of tracks and only one train can go by. So Via Rail often gets sidetracked or side railed momentarily, for as long as it takes for that other train to go by. And
Mhm.
so, anyway, this is, we're on a slow train from Jasper to Edmonton and with the most delightful people. And so we want you to be one of them. So definitely come over to the website and take a look at all the details and let us know if you can come. It'd be so nice to have you.
Yeah, and then once you've decided if you wanna come, let it we're going to I think on the 15th of October, we're going to take a look at all the people who have registered and then go out with course offerings that Stephanie's going to be teaching. So, no rush, but make sure you sign up by the 15th of October, and you can get in on some of the classes with Stephanie. And again, not all of her classes will have room for everyone. So if there are classes you really want to take, you want to make sure that you can sign up for them early.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the weaving one. Obviously, there has to be a limit on the number of people that we can have in that class. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's the train trip. That's coming up in April of 2024, and it's going to be epic. We want you to come. There'll be links for everything down in the show notes below. So definitely come. Plan to join us.
April
Yeah.
12th to 17th.
Thanks, Barb. And so let's talk about what's on your needles right now. What have you got? What have you got going over there, Barb?
Oh, well, I was going to ask you the same thing. I'm noticing this mannequin behind you. Well, I go get my stuff. Why don't you tell us what do you got going on there?
Sure thing. I'll do that. It's so I'm glad you noticed. I guess I couldn't be
Yeah.
more obvious, could I? We're doing this class with Fiona Ellis, and it's on embellishing with embroidery. And I think this is really kind of fun that you can embroider on your knitted garment. So I have here a sweater that I love. In fact, it's so well loved that it's kind of pilly. And I've been, de-pilling it and de-pilling it. And I'm kind of tired of that. I love its deep purple color, but sometimes you can't tell what the design is. So I've decided it's going to be my canvas for embellishing. And in class, the last class, Fiona showed us how to do a couple of things. One is this chain stitch, and then she showed us some other things that you can do with the chain stitch. So not just the chain stitch, but that's all I got done while we were practicing. And then
Mhm.
this bullion stitch as well. And by the way, she told me about some other things you can do with the bullion stitch that you might not have known you can do with it. And so I'm doing what Fiona calls um, trying it out. I've got a swatch of yarn that isn't from this sweater. It's just the
Mhm.
same color, the same dark color. And I'm using a variegated yarn to embroider on it because I think it'd be so
Cool.
cool to watch those colors transition as I make my
Yeah.
chain. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking it and I'm putting it on my sweater to say, where do I want that chain to run? Do I want it to go
Yes.
around the neckline? Do I want it to create more of a pattern? So I'm using my swatch as kind of like a placeholder for that design because that's the next thing.
That's brilliant. What's that class called?
It's called Embellishing with Embroidery. It's a three-part class. So the
Oh,
first class has already happened. And
right.
but that's okay, friends, because there's still room in the class, and we're recording each session. So let's just say you decided you wanted to join, even though we've already started. You could. You can purchase a seat in the class, and we'll send you a link to the recording for the first class. We'll send you the handouts, and I'll be in touch with you personally just to make sure that you've got everything you need to be prepared for the second class or even the third class.
Yeah.
So when we have multi-session classes like this running, I think it's important to tell people that just because you missed the first one doesn't mean you're out forever.
Well, and you even, one of my machine knitting students, Cynthia, missed out on the very first machine knitting class. And you were kind enough to let her like enroll in it, and you sent her out a copy of it with the
Yeah,
handouts and everything, because the handouts are so great, right?
exactly, exactly. I mean, there is a lot to being there's it's nice to be in a live session for sure. You get to ask questions and you get to interact with the other students and with the teacher. But I just, I want people to understand that, if for whatever reason you weren't able to be there, these sessions are recorded, and that is a miracle of being able to get into your time machine and zip back a couple of days and
Yeah,
not miss out on anything. I call
it's
it
true.
I call it the no FOMO effect. You don't have to be afraid or fear of missing out. We've got you covered. So
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been playing with, Barb. And then I do have one more thing, but
yeah. Show me.
I'll let you go first and then I'll come back and show you that one.
Okay, all right. Well, I've been doing some hand knitting, Cynthia. This is a little hat that I made out of Rowan sock yarn. And it's got these beautiful laced sort of leaf shapes with a lacy motif in the center. And so I did this hat in anticipation of a class that you and I are teaching in October, and it's so much fun. I'm gonna start another one. And
Yeah. This is the Rowan top to toe event. And in fact, we're teaching this coming Friday. So just in a
mm,
few days. And again, we'll put links to the event in the show notes below. And we're teaching a lace class.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
that
so
was,
fun. It's a little bit small. I think I'm gonna make my next one a little bit bigger. And I
and
did my gauge.
how
My
will you
gauge
do
was
that?
bang on.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Hmm.
so how will you make your next hat bigger? Because I think it's only written for one size. What's your plan?
Right. Well, these are the trick, I think. I think I didn't have these when I blocked this. And so, you had told me about the balloon story. So I sent Mario out to the dollar store and he came home with balloons. I think if I could have made it bigger, although it's the ribbing, I think that's really a little bit too small. And there was no gauge for the ribbing. So I'm not exactly sure what that should have been. But who knows? Maybe if I washed it and blocked it again on a balloon, it will get bigger. But there is that.
Right. So if you wanted to knit yourself a new hat with with what's left of your ball or a new color of Rowan
Hmm.
sock yarn, you could, yeah, I think you were talking to me about maybe using bigger needles.
I could. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's something that I would do. Yeah. So um, just a nice little slouchy hat that I think I'm so excited to teach too, because I came up while I was knitting with mine, I came up thinking, oh, I think people want to know about this and they want to know how we did the yarn overs. And here's a tip about using markers. And so there's all these little tips and tricks we can add in
That's right.
just to help people speed up their knitting.
That's right. Yeah, and so part of what I've been working on as well is the same thing. And you and I had talked, this is one of the benefits of team teaching. Teachers need, I think Ann Budd calls them step outs. It's like the cooking show thing. Like, I'm going to put this cake in the oven, and then
Yeah.
2 minutes later, I'm taking it out, right? It's
Yes.
big. So I'm working on my version of the hat. I'm using one
Right.
of the self-striping yarns from Rowan Sock, and I've just finished the first pattern repeat. And so I did a little tutorial video on how to put in a safety line. So that way, when
Lifeline.
teaching, right, we'll be able to replay that moment, and I can show everyone what the safety line looks like after you've knit on top of it, and then we can play the video on how you do it.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that. That's a work in progress as well.
That's such a great one because I was on Facebook the other day. I belong to a knitting group, and someone said, "What happened here? I put in a lifeline, and then after I was finished, I pulled the lifeline out, and my knitting came apart."
Oh no. Did
I
they
just
hit the
wonder,
lifeline?
she thought she put in a lifeline, but you know what I think she did is she knit the lifeline in.
Yeah,
And so that's a really important thing to know because all the comments in Facebook too, there must have been 30 comments, and there was probably 10 of them who said, I've been knitting for 60 years. I've never done a lifeline. And so she was able to say, well, I'm happy that this happened to me because now you know about lifelines. So
right.
yeah, this is
Oh,
going to be a great class, I think.
right. Absolutely. And so we've got all kinds of tips for what kind of yarn to use for a lifeline and, make sure that when you go to knit the next row, you don't work into the lifeline, etc. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be really good. Really
yeah.
good.
I'm surprised, you and I, because we've had the shop for so many years, like we've known for years about lifelines and done them a lot. But I'm surprised there are a lot of people who have no idea what a lifeline even is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now, do you have any finished objects that you want to share?
Well, funny you should ask. I just finished these. Do you recognize these?
I sure do. That looks like Queen Vicky's wristlets.
Yeah. And they're in a beautiful purple color. There's somebody who really likes purple a lot. So these might be under somebody's Christmas present.
Oh, really? Somebody who likes purple a lot? Those are beautiful, Barb. What did you make them out of?
Well, I made them out of Adam and Eve. This was left over from Ann Bud's. Excuse me. You're not going to want them now, are you? I will rewash and block them. But this was made out of the same yarn that we used for Ann Bud's Alzheimer's cowl knit along.
Oh, those are absolutely stunning, Barb. You did such a beautiful job.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
the other thing is I'm teaching a learn how to knit lace on your knitting machine class.
You-
And so this is a pattern I'd like to gift everybody in the class. I've rewritten it in machine knitting terms.
Are you telling me you knit those on your knitting machine?
Yeah.
No
Well, okay.
way.
I did from here to here on the machine. They're seamed right here.
Yeah,
You could hardly tell though that the stitches are practically perfect.
your seaming is great.
Isn't my seaming great?
Your
Yeah.
seaming is very good. Yeah.
And so they're seamed here. And I did them on waste yarn and then um, took the waste yarn and picked up stitches here and did this by hand.
Right.
I tried to do this on my machine several times and I succeeded. You have to turn the stitches, you have to pick them up on a garter bar or on waste yarn and turn them around because you have to knit, purl, knit. Then you do a little eyelet row and then you knit, purl, knit. So for me to do that on with the garter bar was just a little time consuming. It was much faster to knit that by hand.
Mm.
And the same thing at the bottom.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah, but this part, Cynthia, was so much fun to do. And I really got a good sense of double decreases here and yarn overs. And
Yeah.
then these are slanted. These stitches are all pulled over with a transfer tool. It's so cool.
Okay, so now I'm thinking people are going to want to know, you know, who do they contact if they want more information about knitting machines? And we did have a question on
Mhm.
social media this week about what was the best kind of machine to buy, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
so can we tell people, Barb, if they have questions about machine knitting that they should contact you?
Yes, definitely. Just phone me or just email me and we'll chat.
Yeah,
The answer to that is like everything else, it depends, right, on what you want to do. But I can really refer you to some great resources to discussions on that very topic, depending on what you like to make and what kind of yarn you have in your stash. Yeah,
perfect.
but this is another attempt at um, converting hand knitting patterns into machine knitting patterns. So
Well, it looks like it's worth your while because those are really pretty.
yeah,
Uh, Whether you hand knit them or machine knit them, those are really pretty. And someone who loves purple will absolutely love to have them
yeah,
later this year.
and not even a full skein of sock yarn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let me show my whip. I did share this before 'cause we finished up a knit along, and so I've got this sweater to show off. This is from Newfoundland Knits for Little Ones. The yarn is from Ancient Arts, and it's a merino. Um, it's a worsted weight merino superwash. I got it in 3 colors, and I really love the way it comes out. I am working on another one, so I have a whip as well, and that one. So this one's for Hayden. I've got one on the go for Rachel, and it's in yarn from the Yarn Therapist. So I'll show that next time we
Yeah.
get together.
Cynthia, that's just beautiful.
I
You're
really
the queen of color work.
I really like the way it turned out. And then that reminds me too that I didn't plan to tell people about the knit along that's coming up starting next Sunday. So we will have a machine knitters support group this coming Sunday. And we are also beginning a knit along called the Fair Isle Sampler knit along. So this is a knit along where you can work on I'll just pop and get my sample here. You can do a stranded colorwork cowl or a hat. This one is done with Eden from Handmaiden. And here's another one from in Eden from Handmaiden, smaller size. And so we're going to do a knit along that's based on working with those floats on the back,
Yes.
keeping them nice and loose. And also, I'm going to show everyone how to do the tubular bind off, tubular cast on and bind off. Completely
Oh,
optional, kind of fussy, but I really like the way it looks in hand knits. So that's coming
that
up.
bind off, that bind off and cast on is the perfect one to use. It's got such a beautiful edge to it. It's almost like, you know, it looks perfect on both sides.
Right? Yeah. It's well, I think it's something that hand knitters took from machine knitters.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
So
Oh,
uh,
so if I wanted to get that pattern, it's on our website, right?
it is, yeah. So when you go to look at the information for the knit along, the pattern links are on the knit along page. And if you go to the pattern page, there's a link to the knit along. So either way, it's there. But just go to our website and you can go by month or you can go by events. You can go by classes by month or by events by knit alongs, and you'll find the information there. We'll put a link down below as well.
Okay, great. Because do you have a hat yet that you've made out of that?
I do. I'm gonna have to disappear here for a second, but I can grab the hat. Hang on.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, ooh, the hat would be fun to knit.
I know. I sort of feel like you just want me to put on hats. I think this is becoming a theme of our podcasts. Like, let's make Cynthia put on a hat.
Oh
Anyway,
my
here we
God,
go.
that looks so cute on you. And you're using all Eden yarn, right? So, and some of it's very, variegated. So,
Yeah,
gosh, I
yeah.
love that. Same pattern?
Same pattern, yeah. The only
Because it looks
difference,
completely different.
the difference between the hat and the cowl is just in the number of repeats. So you can see that
Okay.
so this one we call Hugs and Kisses hat, and this one is called, I think it's called the Fair Isle Sampler Cowl. Now I can't
Mm.
remember what we called it, but there's one less repeat on the hat, and of course, depending on what size you're making, there may be one other less repeat on it if you're making it shallower, and then there are decreases on the hat. But both patterns are, easy to do. If it's your first time doing stranded color work, we always recommend doing the cowl because you don't have to worry about decreases. And if you've done stranded color work before and you want to do something a little bit different, there's a hat pattern, which is a little
And you
less
get
scary.
both. You
You can
get both
absolutely,
pattern, right?
you can do both. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. Oh, that's going to be so much fun.
I know, right? There's just no end to the things that we're doing. And then once we're done this knit along, we have another knit along planned, and this one was suggested by a member of our group. So stay tuned. We'll do I won't do a spoiler alert on all the things, but there's more fun coming up. Yep.
Well, and I'm just thinking that, well, we won't give it away, but on the next Cal, the techniques that you're learning in Fiona's embroidery class will come in very handy.
Yes. In fact, one of the people who's participating in Fiona's embroidery class is the person who suggested this idea. So anyway, it's all it's all, 6 degrees of separation. We're all connected. Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
So
Okay.
yep. So that's what's happening for our podcast today. We want to tell you about all the things that are happening, but we've been doing a lot of events and we've been going places. And so we thought, why not connect with some of our friends and have them tell you about what's coming up at Yarniversity? So
Even better.
right, right. So
Yes.
we've had some lovely conversations with Fiona Ellis and Bristol Ivy and Holli Yeoh and Lucy Neatby. In fact, stick around because you might just get to see the stickers on Lucy Neatby's car. And when I tell you, I know stickers doesn't sound all that fancy, but these are stickers to behold. Like, trust me, you need to watch that. So Fiona's going to tell us about, embellishing with embroidery. She's going to talk to us about the other two classes she has coming up. One is knitting for mindfulness, another is about cables. Bristol's going to talk about the upcoming classes that she's teaching. The same thing with Holli, and of course Lucy. It's all very and all told in a very entertaining and educational way. But I think you kind of feel like I think you just kind of get a better understanding of why these folks are so passionate about teaching these things. And that's kind of half of the trick to it. Like why would I want to take a fixing mistakes class? Lucy's going to tell you why. And you're going to say, "Oh, of course, that's why."
For sure. That's great. And you also have a few other videos, right? In your
Yeah,
back
so
pocket.
yeah, we took a bit of video when we were at Knit City, and we taught. But mostly what I think is fun are the conversations that we had at Knit City. So we've got some video on that, and I've tried to keep it, not too long, to keep it, an interesting length, but still give you all the details and the fun that we experience. So you're gonna see some, you're gonna see inside Ginger Snap's blacklight studio booth. And
And
like I
you're
said,
going to hear from Carolyn Sommerfeld, who's developed a relationship with a local farmer, and
mhm,
she's helping him sell his yarn for a fair price.
yeah,
Fair
it's it's
price.
really it's really nice. And yeah, it was great to be able to touch it and to talk about it. So even though you might not have been there, even though you may not have been able to purchase any of this particular fiber yourself, you're still going to be able to get that kind of smell-o-vision that Barb and I have been talking about for years. I'm going to spotlight you, Barb, so you can show that off.
This is the new breed that Carolyn's helping bring to market. It's called Heritage. And this one happens to be, from Bristol Estate Fibers. This one's 100% Gotland sheep. It's so woolly.
What do you have you got plans for that skein, Barb?
I think they've got to be mittens, red mittens.
I think red mittens would be amazing.
Don't you think? Yeah.
So we would really love to have you stay on. Now that we've done the intro, we kind of told you what's going to happen. So come on, hang out with us and share the conversations that we've been having with our friends about what's coming up at Yarniversity. Barb is teaching a demonstration. They're doing a demonstration for her machine knitters support group. Barb, do you want to just talk briefly about that?
Yeah. Well, back when we had yarn in our shop and we were selling it, we had a number of people who wanted to use up their stash, especially during COVID. And they thought, oh, wow, I think I'll get a knitting machine because that'll be really, really fast. Well, little did we know that a knitting machine can be quite complex. And in order to know how to use it and to, get all the features out of it, it takes some skill. So I've been working over the summer to create a line of basic machine knitting classes that you can come out to. And even if you don't have a machine, you can learn a little bit about what it's like to use one, and it might inspire you to get yours out of the closet. And so that's the idea. And this particular week, I'm teaching, doing a demo on Intarsha. I took Bristol Ivy's class last month, and I was so excited to take Intarsha hand knitting that now I've figured out how to do it on my machine without an Intarsha carriage. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And there's a couple more coming up in the fall on lace and diagonal knitting, taking your knitting off on different directions.
We want to welcome to the screen our friend Holli Yeoh, who is in Vancouver, British Columbia. And Holli is coming to teach a class for us on socks. And I see, Holli, you've got a nice lineup of socks.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Now, is that gauge dye works, Holli?
No, most of this is mud punch. So she's local. Mud punch. Mud punch. She's local to me in Vancouver and hand dyes self-striping yarn, which is amazing. I also have way in the background on that shelf, that is gauge dye works. I see it's camouflaged with the books. I guess I didn't plan that well. So yeah, I'm teaching a toe-up sock class. This is a class that I've taught for absolutely years, tip-toe up socks. And in fact, Cynthia, it was you who said, do you have a pattern to support this class? And I'm like, well, that's a good idea. I guess I should have written the pattern. So now it's my best-selling pattern as well. And the pattern is kind of like a workshop in a pattern. We start with a Turkish cast on for the toe and do my favorite increases, which are raised increases. And then work up the leg. So here's an example of a sock. So we start at the toe, we work up the leg. I throw in a little bit of waste yarn for the heel, but you can not do that if you want. If you blow past the location where you want your heel, you can just keep on going. Basically, I'm knitting a tube. And then later I come back and I put the heel in. And I find that this is the best way to use self-striping yarns. So here's another example of a self-striping sock. It doesn't interrupt the progression, the pattern repeat of how the colors land in the stripes. And because there's no gusset, it doesn't change stitch count size. So those stripes don't get skinnier and skinnier as you go over the instep. And with this style, you can also knit until you run out of yarn too. So if you're using a yarn like Gauge Dye Works, where you want to get the whole planet progression, which is our solar system, is that one in the back there, goes from Sun to Pluto. And she does know that Pluto's not a planet, but everybody lobbied for her to include Pluto. You can you can make you can knit until you run out of yarn. Whereas if you had done it cuff down, it would have required a lot more planning to make sure that you get all your planets to fit.
Well, that's
so. Holli, is this going to happen in one class, or is it over several?
We're going to meet. Is it 3 or 4 times, Cynthia? 3 times. Thank you. Sorry, I teach 2 sock classes, and I was mixing them up in my mind. So yes, we're going to meet 3 times. Each class is 2 hours, and there's homework between the classes because you need to sort of knit till you get to the next thing that we're going to learn in class.
Yeah.
And it's a great tech class. And a lot of the skills that I teach you or the techniques that I teach you are transferable to other projects.
That's
nice.
Right. Yeah, like afterthought pockets instead of afterthought heels.
Yeah.
And Holli, I have to say too, I just have to pop in and say, the other thing that I think is really cool about this class is that if you're left-handed, you're often taught to graft your toe closed, or graft or do a sewn bind off in a right-handed way. You know, the instructor's holding the yarn in the right hand. Holli's going to teach you how to do this without a wool needle. And so it's very equalizing for left-handed and right-handed people. So if you take it for no other reason than because you're a southpaw, you need to take it.
Yeah, so I use knitting needles to graft. It just feels like you're knitting, and that's how I'm able to remember how to graft. Whereas if I wanted to do it with a yarn needle, I usually have to look up the instructions. So I'm all about not getting up off the couch. Although now that we've got smartphones, that's less of an issue. But sometimes the battery goes dead.
Thank you so much, Holli.
You're welcome.
It's lovely. I think it's the best class. And if you are a newer sock knitter, you know, if you've done a pair of socks from the heel down to the toe, and now you're curious about doing it from the toe up, this is a great class for you because Holli's going to teach you, you know, again, that working backwards can be kind of confusing. So consider this, even if you are a newer sock knitter, it's a great class. All right. And then Bristol. This is our first fall winter with Bristol on our teaching roster, and we're so excited. Barb and I met up with Bristol at Knit City Montreal, and Barb like strong-armed Bristol over to our table and said, "Please, will you come and teach for us?" And Bristol was very gracious and said, "Sure." And so here she is to tell you about what's coming up at Yarniversity.
I will never say no to you guys. Whatever you want, I'll do it. So the 2 classes that I've got coming up next on the schedule are an Introduction to Mosaic class, which is such a fun technique. It is a lot of visual bang for your buck. And so we'll just talk about the structure of it. A lot of what I teach has to deal with not just the how we do something, but the why we do something and the actual architecture of the stitches. And so for me, Mosaic is not only like, okay, you do this, then you do this. It's about why we slip here as opposed to here, why we do garter stitch here as opposed to stockinette here. So it can be really graphic. So since I'm at my yarn shop, I like liberally grabbed all of my samples in my yarn shop. This is one where it can be something very, very simple and graphic, or it can be something very pictorial and you can really play with that across the yarns. But we'll talk a little bit about color theory, how you might choose yarns that will work well together, how to design your own mosaic should you want to. But in all, mosaic itself is a fantastic technique because you can get the same effect as color work, but with only working one color per row or round, which, I mean, I love color work, but there are times where I'm just like, man, could I just be lazy for 1 second and just use one color? That would be fantastic. So Mosaic does that for you in such a beautiful way. And it can be just so interesting the way that you can put those stitches together to make that happen. That dovetails into the second class I'm teaching for you all, which is Slip It, Float It, Tuck It, which is all about how you can manipulate your stitches as you're making them in terms of slipping it and then the structure of a slip stitch itself, whether it's slipped with the yarn in front, whether it's slipped with the yarn in back, whether it's twisted, whether it's moved, whether it's carried over multiple rows. All of that you can use to manipulate the look of your fabric without really doing, increases or decreases. It's just slipping a stitch and reorienting it in a different location. You also get to play with the floats of a slip stitch because there's two parts of a slip stitch, right? There's the vertical stitch, and then there's the float that travels behind it or in front of it. So both of those can get manipulated in a really interesting way to create really cool fabric. So on that one, we will just play and play and play with lots and lots of different stitch combinations and stitch patterns. And then again, same as with the mosaic, I always try to leave time at the end for you to play with your own ideas because that's the best part, getting to play and just work on a project that doesn't have an end goal other than just fun and exploration and education. So those are the two classes I'll be teaching, and I'm really, really excited to get to teach them for you guys.
Yeah. And so, Bristol, you do have one more class this year and then another class in the new year. So maybe we could take a moment to talk about from the top, top-down shawls.
Thank you for reminding me which one it was. I was like, oh shoot, I need to look up which one it is. This is another one that I really love teaching because shawls are such an amazing canvas within knitting because, they're a blank space. They don't have to fit a human form. You can just knit the thing and then artfully drape it somehow, some way, shape, or form. But within that, one of the really cool things about knitting to me is that we take a lot of things in knitting for granted. We take a lot of this is just how it is for granted. And so the math that's sitting underneath all of these shawl shapes is there whether we pay attention to them or not. So what we do in From the Top is we talk about and swatch. We make lots of little teeny tiny chicken swatches. Someone took this class a few years ago and sent me pictures of all of the little shawls on her chickens. And I was like, you have won the internet. This is amazing. We'll make these little tiny shawls that will help us understand both some really gorgeous traditional shawl shapes, some not so traditional, and then how we can use those both to create our own ideas, but also to start to understand kind of what's happening underneath on the structure of knitting, which is just so cool to me that it's like a secret language that underlies everything, which is just, it's the best.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I was telling somebody the other day that she was complaining about geeks and about Comic-Con, and I said, I think that knitters are kind of geeky too. What?
Oh, so geeky.
Do you agree? Yeah, I see Holli's nodding her head as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think knitting is such a perfect balance between right brain and left brain. I think I saw a study recently that it does trigger both parts of the brain. Someone did an MRI when someone was knitting, and it triggered both parts of the brain equally. But it can be so artistic and creative and amazing, but it can also be so logical and asking those what if questions and seeing what happens. So all of the things that I teach in my classes are giving you the knowledge so that you can go forth and ask those what if questions yourself.
Yeah. And so one of our customers contacted us and said, what if you got Bristol Ivy to come and teach this class that we're calling A Geek's Guide to Lace Knitting? Do you want to just spend a minute and tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to. So this is one of my favorite classes to teach. There's a technique you can do by which you encode, and I think this is the right audience for this. If you remember when you were a kid, the decoder rings that came in cereal boxes, we're basically going to use that concept to encode words into lace. So it's not going to be the sort of thing where you see the letter L and the letter A and letter C and the letter E. No one will know what you've encoded in there, but you know. So, for example, my brother and sister-in-law just had twins. I'm an auntie, and I charted out, still have not knit blankets for the babies. That is a lace that's a combination of wanted and loved. There's a lace that's a combination of mom and dad, and there's a lace that's a combination of Maine and Oregon, where I live and where they grew up and where they currently live. So you can do things with such intention and joy and love and put all of that in there. Or it's also the situation where, that one person who always asks you for a hand knit garment that you absolutely hate, but you can't say no. You could encode whatever you wanted to into that garment. It's a kind of really nice way to add an extra layer of meaning, whether positive or negative.
Thank you, Bristol.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit about like pattern design and how you can take a single idea and make it into larger pieces. So lots of stuff gets covered in there, and it's a really, really fun class.
So I'm doing 3 classes for the Yarniversity as well this season, and I have the first one coming up, Embellishing with Embroidery, and this is about adding additional material to your knitting. So it's a way of adding like embroidery stitches. We'll also look at duplicate stitch because every knitter needs to know how to do duplicate stitch. Adding embellishments, creative elements. You could be taking a store-bought or a thrifted sweater and repairing it maybe by adding something over the top of it, adding all sorts of beautiful, whimsical maybe details. And also this sort of thing translates really nicely into embellishing, maybe any small toys that we might be making for Christmas gifts or making stockings or any of those things that might need a little je ne sais quoi to, elevate them beyond just ordinary knitting. So I've got a couple of examples with me of the sort of thing that I've been working on. And whoops, 1 second, I'm just coming back to. Sorry, Cynthia, I've been messing about with this and now here we go.
All good. It's all good, Fiona.
All right. I get a bit deer in the headlights whenever something technical glitches here. So this swatch obviously needs a little bit of TLC, but here I'm showing you appliqué knit. So these little petals have been knit separately and then applied afterwards. And then adding bullion knots, which are great to learn for doing sort of eyes and such, for, gnomes. Lots of different embroidery stitches. We'll look at the ones that are most suitable to put onto knitwear because not all of them work as well as others because of the flexibility of the fabric. And it can be something that's as simple as just a simple crossing stitch, duplicate stitch, adding an additional color. If we're working 2-color Fair Isle, for example, we can add another color without having to knit the whole thing in. And then looking at really cute, whimsical little details. This is applique, so it's a little piece of I-cord. You can do those on the knitting machine, Barb. Have you made I-cord on the knitting machine? Because they're super fun. And then this is like further embellished, right? I'm using mohair to make little fluffy fur on the back of the caterpillar. So it's very fun, but it's not always necessarily whimsical. I know this is your sort of favorite element, Cynthia, that we can do tone on tone. We could maybe use yarns that are shiny on matte or vice versa. Cynthia really likes this little buttonhole stitch thing here that creates a little bee or something of that ilk. So we'll be looking at a bunch of different types of stitch work, different methods, and it's running over 3 weeks. So I'll look at different techniques each week. We're aiming for 2 to 3. That gives you the time to experiment and play with your own sample in between times. and we can come back and work a little more into something. I'm hoping there's going to be lots of show and share and exchanging that collective knowledge that's within the group. I'm going to be like directing the traffic and showing you the demos. So that's the embroidery class. The next one that is in November is my Knitting as Mindfulness. This comes out of my knowledge as a fully fledged yoga instructor. I just got my 200 hours to be a registered yoga instructor this year. I was already qualified, but I've now got the full professional qualification. But looking at knitting as that way of not just a meditation, but how do we bring mindfulness to our stitches, which helps us understand our knitting. And it was a little of what you were saying, Lucy, about bringing that knowledge so that it helps us avoid making mistakes or being able to correct them, but really slowing down and looking at what does it take to make a knit stitch and a purl stitch. We'll look at cables, we'll look at color work, and all of these things. So it's kind of a knitting yoga class, but there's no physical exercises. They're all knitting exercises. And that's also 3 weeks, an hour each week. And I add in a little knitting meditation and all of that good stuff. It was something that I first developed right at the beginning of the pandemic because we were all a little bit woo, and so we really needed to kind of learn to be able to focus. And I think that now we're always in those kind of like little busy stages that sometimes we need to be able to know how to calm down and sit nicely with our knitting and bring a little peace and quiet, and when everything's going crazy around us, we can go to our knitting, and our knitting can bring that comfort. So
and I love that you've positioned these over 3 weeks, so we could have a little bit of time in between to play on some of these things, and like the embellishment and thinking about different ways to perk up something really plain.
Yeah. I know Cynthia's really excited to do something with maybe a sweater from a thrift store that you just buy. It's just a plain sweater, and then adding your personal taste to it. And the great thing about these is that you can put them in, audition them, and if you don't like them, you can just take them out, and they don't damage the knitting in any way. So you can just experiment, and it's really a lovely way of being very creative. And this whole idea of visible mending is a huge trend. So we're taking advantage of that as well. So it's very current. And then the third one is, I'll just slide this one in before we run out of time. My favorite cables, we're doing I call it like the gateway class. So, we're people who maybe have not tried cabling. We'll break it down into basics, but those knitters who have tried it and maybe need a refresher and want to come back and really dig into the technique so they fully understand it, will also get a lot out of that class. And that one is just over one Saturday afternoon, I believe. We're doing it over 2 hours.
It's the sweet spot, the most wonderful time of the year in December. So December 2nd. And Fiona, I just wanted to show you that I took your boot cuffs. These are called the top shelf boot cuffs, and I just tucked them into my sleeve cuffs. So, I can cable and add an embellishment and, do all the things.
Mindfully. So that's what I'm doing this season for the Yarniversity. And I know there's lots of great content. So we've got lots of knowledge coming up.
Well, I'm here today with none other than Lucy Neatby, who's coming to us direct from Cook Island, where she lives most of the time, right? When you're not on a longboat somewhere or traveling to the mainland. Just tell us a little bit, Lucy, what is life like on Cook Island right now?
Life is, today it's sunny with a nice breeze, but this meeting was originally scheduled for Saturday when we were in the midst of the post-tropical storm Lee that gave us a really good blasting, and the power was going on and off all day. But we actually have power now, so I was wondering if we would actually have power at this point. So we survived it very well.
Right.
Life on the island is wonderful. I love it. We can only get here by a foot ferry, So you can't pop on or pop off. There's 4 sailings a day. And it actually gives you more time because you don't nip out to the shops because we have no shops. It allows you to live life at a sensible pace.
Oh, that's so nice, Lucy. And I have behind me in my window the lovely Floribunda blanket because one of the things you're known for, Lucy, is double knitting. And for those who don't know, I'll flip this over and show you, but this is a completely double knit reversible blanket worked in the round. And you did such a beautiful job on it, Lucy. You love color. I can see it in your hair and in your background. Have you always been, kind of a person who loves color?
Yes, I think so. When I look back, I've always worn odd socks. I've always worn odd shoes. Took a little longer, but it's a real joy. I mean, color makes such a difference to me. I could have 2 things, one in white and one in lime green or hot pink or purple or something, and I would infinitely prefer to choose the brightly colored one. In fact, my car on the island, just by the nature of buying a second-hand car, you can't really choose the color. It's beige. However, I've found the most wonderful sticker company, Hippie Motors, and they make great car stickers. And so it's covered in stickers and magnets. So everyone on the wharf that looks at my car goes, that's Lucy's car. It's you can overlook the beigeness because it's got butterflies and flowers all over it.
Oh, that's lovely. I maybe I can coax a picture from you later, so I can show everyone what that car looks like. I love that. That's so
And it
it's
makes me happy to look at it. I mean, I absolutely know it's my car.
and if you don't mind, Lucy, tell us a little bit about the odd shoes. I think I know what you mean there, in that you like to wear a shoe that's one color on one foot and a different color on the other foot. But
Yes, it started with Birkenstocks because they have similar footbeds, and I would buy a pair of Birkenstocks and then buy another pair of Birkenstocks and go, well, it would be much more fun to have this left one and this right one. But when you pack, you've got to be very careful. You pack a left and a right. It's no good packing 2 right ones. And then many years later, Kat Bordy and I were both very fond of Keen's sandals, and we discovered our foot size was the same and our taste in shoes was the same. And we had several pairs of shoes. Hers lived on the Pacific coast and mine lived on the Atlantic coast. And so we shared shoes, and that was a lot of fun. Why have 2 shoes the same color if you can have 2 different ones?
right. And what a special memory of Kat Bordy. She was a beautiful and special person. So I love that you had an opportunity to, share shoes with her. That's great.
And she actually came to the island. She was teaching on the East Coast, and I hijacked her and brought her back to the island because I blame her partly for my passion for islands. I remember arriving in Friday Harbour and walking off the ferry there, a much bigger ferry. So I was determined when she was out east to bring her to the island. And as soon as she got off the ferry, she was wearing her partner's shoes to mine. And somebody looked at her and said, not knowing her from Adam, and said, "Oh, you're the other half of the shoes," within minutes of arriving on the island. So yes, I have special memories of Kat on Tango.
We've got you coming for 3 classes this fall. The first one is Phoenix from the Ashes. And so, this, I've been telling people this is a class about how to revise a project, or, you've thrown it against the wall because you're totally frustrated or a mistake happened several rows down, and you think this is no good anymore. I can't deal with it. And I think this is where this kind of rescue class comes into play.
Exactly. I think it's possibly one of the most important classes I teach. But to be honest, I'm trying to teach more about changing your mindset. Mistakes are actually healthy. And you learn so much more from having made a mistake. If somebody gets something right in class first time, they haven't experienced the pitfalls. And so I actually welcome mistakes in class, and it then you do it again and go, oh, that's why you're doing it. So my emphasis in the class, there's quite a lot of talking because it's actually based very strongly on I won't call it a disastrous project, but it was a project that taught me a huge number of lessons that I must have knit nearly 40 years ago, which is a bit scary. But I made so many sort of errors in the knitting. I thought I was doing a great job, but it was more errors in my thinking. And so we'll be looking at how we can keep a project on the straight and narrow and get what we want first time, and how we can deal with a situation where we're not happy with it and how can we remedy it. And then when all else fails, we can think of an alternative solution. So there's many sort of levels of approach, but I really encourage people to make friends with their stitches, happy stitches, and finishing techniques also come into Phoenix, or to rescue techniques. Good finishing leads to good cheating, and it's not really cheating, you're just being able to pull things back from the brink. I regard, and I will tell you several times during class, that ripping should be the last resort. It should be, it's very easy to say, oh, I made a mistake 4 rows ago. I'll pull out the needle and I'll rip back, but you haven't learnt anything. You've gone back 4 rows and you haven't gained anything. Whereas if you look at your knitting and say, okay, I'm going to look at this tomorrow morning, or when I'm at my freshest, when I have really good light, and I'm going to stand back from it and I'm going to see if I can fix it. And chances are you will be able to. But if you can't, you still have the option of taking the needle out and ripping back. But unlike hang gliding, if you make a mistake, it's rarely fatal in knitting. So actually look upon mistakes or things that didn't go quite the way you planned and try and work out why they happened, how they can be fixed, and how you can avoid this in the future. But as much as anything, it's a matter of mindset and saying to yourself, oh, I'm sure I can do this, because knitting stitches are really fairly simple little things. I mean, they undulate up. And so the closer or the better you understand your knitting structure, the more easily you can make those stitches do exactly what you want them to.
And I would imagine too, perhaps, that sometimes the curriculum might vary depending on, kind of the questions that students have about.
Absolutely. Classes, even with the same title, they don't necessarily always go in the same direction. I very much like people to bring examples of their challenges, because it's so much easier if someone holds up a sweater for me to say, well, have you tried this, or have you? I can't tell you how many invisible sweaters I have been asked to diagnose, ones that have been ripped and disposed of. And they say, well, this thing happened and that thing happened. And many of them could have been saved with no loss of knitting. Knitted fabric is very precious. Yeah. And we value it because we put such time and effort. So it's important that we save it and use it wisely, and don't just toss it away.
Agreed, 100%. I think it's always sad to me when a customer says to me, I've ripped that out. Yeah, I've frogged it. And sometimes that's just what you need to do. Sometimes that's therapeutic, perhaps, but it does feel a bit sad, because you're
when
right.
You've tried everything else, because if you laddered back a cable and weren't happy with the way it was finished, well, okay, take it back and reknit. But you tried, and you've probably learned something even in the trying. So, for example, a saddle shoulder with a wrongly crossed cable. Well, have a go at it. And then when you've got a front of a sweater and the wrongly crossed cable is right front and center, you're going to feel much more confident. The other thing I highly recommend is to make the mistake again in a swatch.
Right.
So if you've got it in the middle of the project, go, okay, well, the problem is, so recreate the problem in a swatch, bodge away with it, rip it back, ladder it back, turn it round, and then based with your experience on that, go forth onto your sweater.
Perfect. Perfect. Are there any mistakes in this one here?
Possibly, because it's very easy on double knitting not to look at the other side. I am bad because I do read whilst I double knit, and so it's quite possible that I got a mistake stitch on the other side. Oh, I do know there is one where I got a twist. There's a twist in the magenta grey somewhere in the, and I looked at it afterwards. I mean, you obviously haven't spotted it. I know it's there. You can see it because if you have an accidental twist, it leaves a little teeny blip of colour. But the cure for that would have been worse than the disease. The cure for that would have been to cut a row above. And it's in a fairly plain section. There wouldn't have been a good place to hide the ends. So given careful analysis, sometimes you just say, let it go.
Or duplicate stitch, right? I mean, you could...
Yeah, duplicate stitch. It wouldn't work here because it's a very plain section. It was better just to, and I would, let me know when you find it.
All right, that sounds fair, totally fair. And then you're coming back, Lucy, to do a class for us on modular knitting. And you know, I think I came late to modular knitting, but when I discovered it through you, I fell in love with it. And I think one of the things that I liked most about it, so I'm going to put on this MVP hat, which is a design that you designed for us out of Touchdown. And I think that the assignment that we gave you was to use this variegated yarn in interesting ways. And so you can see that, you know, where the modular knitting is, the yarn bends into these little squares. And then underneath the brim, the yarn's almost stripes and perfect stripes. And then at the top, you know, when you start to change the number of stitches, we get this really interesting pattern. But maybe you could tell us, Lucy, what is magical for you about modular knitting?
Modular knitting is very entertaining, and I mean we have different knittings for different reasons, and so modular knitting is very repetitive. Once you've made one module, the next one is probably going, I mean, there are some modular knitting where you have a couple of kinds of module, but we'll be dealing with one kind of module. Well, I'm going to look at squares and triangles. But once you get the hang of knitting one of these units, you could knit them in the dark, in the bath, on a canoe. There's small bits of approachable knitting that you can knit in company. It's not like knitting lace where you need full concentration. So they're really easy to knit, and they have very different effects. So the way the hat, when I was designing the hat, I wanted the colours to be concentrated, and also the right angle bend in the row of knitting created by a decrease adds to the interest. So it behaves quite differently in a small area of colour. And we'll be talking about how you can determine your module size based on the kind of yarn you're using. So if you had a yarn with a very long colour gradation, you would be looking for a bigger module because it would take a bigger piece of knitting before the colour changed to the next one. So you can use modules, you can change the size of the module, you can change the weight of the yarn, you can change the needle size, but you base that on what you're expecting or how many stitches you expect from a particular length of yarn that you're going to be working with. So there's all kinds of those fun little things to think about, but once you're underway in knitting, you just keep on making that module, and many of them attach to the previous module, so it reduces the amount of seaming that people have to do. The triangles that I will be teaching do involve using mattress stitch, but you mattress stitch as you go, so it's not a big chore at the end. So modules are just a really entertaining piece of knitting. And there's so many things you can do with them. You can have complete modules, you can have striped modules, you can have right angle modules. There's so much choice.
I think this class is going to be so much fun. It's a great way to use up, oddments of yarn if you have those. But I think you're also going to talk to us a bit about the shapes, obviously, but also how, ways to knit them so that they're easier to join together. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you prepare the edges as you work so that it's as easy as sort of 1, 2, 3, following the positions that you have created. So it should be very easy to knit one piece onto another. And we'll look at some of the options, because we can't look at all of them because there are too many, but we'll look at some of the options where you can take this simple shape and you can put stripes in, you can put a feature color at the top, but it is great for using up oddments of yarn, things that are too precious to throw away. And you can also, to a certain extent, mix yarns up a bit, the weights, because you surround a unit with other units of a similar yarn. It sort of controls and creates an average sort of fabric. So where you might not use a different yarn in the middle of a sweater for a different stripe, you can get away with it in modular knitting.
Yeah, and the other thing I really love about these little squares or triangles is what they do to the color in your yarn, because we've all faced that beautiful skein of yarn that you bought, you loved it on the hank, and then you start to knit it up and it becomes muddy, or the color, the main color that you thought was there isn't. It was just,
Yeah.
it was just the one that was visible on the outside.
Yes. It has a lovely way of focusing colors, and so we'll be talking about how you look at your yarn and how you can predict what sort of effect it's going to have, and how you might choose your module size to best suit your yarn.
Perfect. Or maybe the amount of time that you have, like maybe you're one of those people who likes instant gratification, so your modules are going to be smaller.
Yes, yep. And I mean, the other thing people love about dominoes is that you can carry them around with you. A domino baby blanket is just another one of my designs, but it's so much fun just to carry it around with you. And when the gestation period is up, you've probably got a lovely blanket.
This one that's coming up is probably more technical than others. This one's called the Magic Buttonhole and Double Bands. And this has to do with creating perfect buttonholes, if I can use that word, on your cardigans, right? Tell us a bit more about
and
this.
Also, yep. Button bands, well, finishing directions on a pattern are not where the money is. Knitting patterns are generally written to sell yarn, and adding another 5 pages to fully explain how to finish it and how to put the button band on is not cost effectively. So being able to put bands on from first principles yourself. So we'll look at the math behind it, and you don't have to count it. We'll be dealing in very simple numbers, but there's a sort of magic formula that can make a band work anywhere. And then using those principles, you can apply a band around a blanket, you can apply a band around an armhole, and get the effect you want straight away without. It's not blind following it, it's you working it out in your particular situation. And so we'll be looking at lots of hints and tips to get a band right first time and how you achieve that. But my favorite bands are double bands that come out, fold in, and come back again, because the band should boss around the edge of the knitting and frame it. You can take a tatty piece of knitting and put a nice band on it, and it actually sits up and looks lovely. So we'll be looking at this kind of band that folds over and comes back. But the problem when you have a double thickness band is the fact you've got to put 2 buttonholes in, one on each side. And when I first started doing double bands, I used to use the 1-row self-reinforcing buttonhole on both sides. And then I would stitch around inside the buttonhole, joining the 2 layers together so that when you put a button through, you didn't lose it in the middle of the band. And I was experimenting with buttonholes for a class and happened upon this one, which is effectively a reverse stocking stitch graft. But by using waste yarn to hold the buttonhole stitches on both sides, it's possible to hold it in such a manner that you can see where to sew. It takes practice. There's no two ways about it. You've got to get your eye in. But once you've got the hang of it, it does make a really beautiful buttonhole for on both sides. It's impeccable. And so that's the kind of buttonhole we're going to be looking at. It takes a little practice, but I have to say virtual teaching has made teaching this buttonhole so much easier because you get the bird's eye view as close as you like. Whereas when you've got 20 people sitting on your shoulder and breathing down your neck, it's not quite so easy. So we will be working a sample with the buttonholes in it and giving you the full directions. And I always suggest if you're going to do a magic buttonhole on your project, that you practice your buttonholes before you actually commit to it. It's something that needs refreshing. You need to practice it. And we'll talk about having a buttonhole practice swatch. And it does. You also need to pay attention to the kind of yarn you use to sew the buttonhole, because some yarns look better than others, and we'll be talking about that as well. But the double band then becomes a thing of great beauty.
It's like the photograph that we have from your sweater is beautiful, and I think people have been very engaged in that. I do believe that during COVID we went into sweater weather, and I don't think we've come out. I just see so many of my friends and colleagues are casting on sweaters, and so it's really nice to be able to have a nice tailored approach to putting in those buttonholes so you can have a sweater that you're really proud of. As you say, right? It's the finishing details that often get glossed over, but
Yep.
are so important.
Yes,
Because
it can make or break.
I think
And good finishing also leads to good cheating. So these skills are just the opposite side of the same coin. And all of this will make you feel more powerful, braver, and more able to cope with knitting challenges.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Lucy, for taking the time to talk with me today, and telling us about these classes. And they're, we're all going to be very, very well informed by the end of the year.
Well, it's lovely to be able to nip to Edmonton and join you without leaving the island.
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
And
All right.
wherever the students happen to be, it's really quite amazing what virtual teaching has done for us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you very soon.
Yes, lovely. Thanks a lot. Good to see you, Cynthia.
Okay. So here we are.
Here we are, Cynthia.
We're in the Peony.
Yes.
This is Sunday, and it's day 2 of the marketplace. We couldn't come to you yesterday because we were in class.
Yes, well, we were here for a little while yesterday, and we did get a little bit of time with a couple of vendors, but we wanted to walk around with you today and just show you this amazing market. So stay tuned. We will come back to you in a minute.
Yeah. All right, so where should we go to first, Barb?
Well, let's just go right down the center aisle.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Just take a little looky-loo. So this is actually a hockey stadium, right?
Yeah. Oh, and here's the Sweet Georgia booth.
The Sweet Georgia booth is always great just to walk down and get an idea of all the beautiful colors.
Yeah.
Want to do that?
Sure.
Go straight through?
Yeah.
And see some of Felicia's samples?
This is nice. Look at all these swatches.
That is
Mhm.
beautiful. And she's got such beautiful saturated colors.
Yes, yeah, and kits.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
How fun is that?
Hmm.
My favorite color.
Yes. Party of 5.
Look at these lovely bundles. Oh my gosh.
It's
Seems
really
so
nice.
soothing.
Hmm. Yeah, lots of good stuff, hey?
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
I think this is one of Sabrina's favorite colors.
Mm-hmm. What color is that?
Lime.
Yeah. That's really nice. Look at these beautiful shelves of color. Okay. Mm. Oh, and there's samples down here too. Mhm.
Remember the sail shawl?
Mm-hmm.
That one was such a nice one.
Yeah.
All these beautiful shawls.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's really pretty. And they have a lounge. They sponsored a
Yes.
lounge right in the middle here.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So people can sit down and knit for a bit.
Yes.
Right? Well, I just thought your hand might be tired.
I'm fine. Yeah. This is our friends at Ancient Arts. Mm-hmm. Hi. Good, how are you? Good. Hi, Kim.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
We are having so much fun.
Excellent.
Tell us a little bit about this new line. Like,
Oh.
why, when, where,
So
how?
I'm really excited about it because I've wanted to have a local yarn for many years. But the problem is finding a source of wool and being
Yeah.
able to make it into yarn. And I know that there are people who have the time to go out and hunt down the shepherds and find wool, but
Yeah.
it wasn't me. When we moved to the new studio, or we're making the move, a really fantastic guy named Jacob from Bristol Estates Fibre approached me and said, I've got all this wool. Would you be
Oh.
interested in doing a collaboration and
Where's
making a
he
yarn?
from?
So he's in Alberta.
Okay.
He's about 5 hours north of our studio. And I'm
Oh.
like, you have wool? And he said, yes, I have Gotland crosses and I want to breed towards pure Gotland. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because it's such a rare and beautiful wool.
Is that what this is?
So that's what this is. So Jacob and I got together, we made a bunch of yarn. We're super excited about it, super happy about it. And so this is grown in Alberta, it's milled in Alberta, it's dyed in Alberta. And the other thing that is really important to me about this yarn is that he didn't get 35 cents a pound for his wool, because he told me that this beautiful, exquisite, rare breed wool was being sold to the wool mill for 35 cents a pound. So we were able to make a change here where he gets a third of the profit, just like the mill and I do, and that makes it right in this world. So I love the yarn. It's absolutely beautiful. This particular batch was done at the Historic Museum Custom Woolen Mill. It's a working mule spinner, one of only 2 in the world, and it has produced a woolen yarn. So we have the white one here that dyes in beautiful jewel tones, and that's pure Gotland Finn. And then we have the natural gray one, and we've blended some of his beautiful natural fleeces with Rambouillet from Alberta to give it a little bit more of a squish factor. So we have 2 different yarns. And the other thing they did was that they did a couple of different shades of gray. So we have it in solid, but we also have it in this gentle marl. Isn't that pretty?
Isn't that pretty? So that actually looks, is it 2 different colors
It's
that are
2 different
stranded
shades
together?
based on the blending of the blacks and the whites. So he has a lot
Wow.
of naturally colored Gotland sheep, and the color on it is exquisite. And as a dyer, I just adore it because the way that it dyes, it's just so vivid and beautiful. And I would love to show you more colors, but they're gone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go home and dye more of it. But it has
Do
been...
you have it in the natural? What does it
Yeah,
look like in the
So this
natural?
one in the natural is this one here.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's pretty. So when
Yeah.
you dye over this, you get all sorts of tonality then,
Yep.
right?
Yep, you do.
Wow.
So it's like in this pink. There's
Yeah.
lighter color, darker color, and so you get this heathered appearance. So the one that's black, this one here is the one that's blended with white to get it lighter. So he has some sheep that are really dark, this brown-black color, but it's really, really rare. He didn't know what he was doing, and he had the first batch made into the dark yarn, and I said, oh no, Jacob, this is so rare and so valuable that you need to blend it with the lighter wool to stretch it, as it were. So that's what we did with the next batch. But that one is just absolutely amazing in terms of color. You almost never find it that dark.
Thank you for sharing Jacob with us, because this is just the best story ever.
Jacob is an amazing guy, and I have never met anyone more passionate about his flock and his sheep and the proper care of them. And seeing the yarn do well here was just so amazing, because this yarn actually paid for his entire fall feed bill and the medical care that his sheep needed. So, you know, it really mattered to him, and I'm so glad that it succeeded.
Okay, let's get a close-up of that label.
And if you flip the label over, his logo's on it because he should have credit for the wool. So there's his logo. And you can follow them on Instagram.
Yeah.
They post a lot of really fun videos and photos of the sheep, so you can actually get to meet the sheep and the sheep farmer and see his farm.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Carol. And as always, you know, it's just, you're a wealth of information. We love coming and chatting
It's a pleasure.
with you. And
I love chatting with you guys too, and being indulged in my passion for yarn.
Yes.
Okay, so I have to touch it.
Okay, you have
Okay.
to touch it.
I have to
So
touch it.
this is washed and blocked once,
Oh.
and that is on a 5.5 millimeter.
It's got a lot of bounce to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a woolly texture, but well, you know what? I know I used to not like it when people would do this in the store, right? But I didn't put any makeup on my chin, I promise.
And then this is on 4.5 millimeters, so it's a little bit.
Okay.
You know, and so it's
Right.
an Aran weight. You know,
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
how that's, you can wiggle with that. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is really nice. Here, you hold this for a second, Kim. Here we go.
All right.
I'm just gonna do this. Oh, look at that. It's such a nice bounce back. This is what yarn shop owners do with swatches. They say, okay, like, is this good for a sweater? Yes, this is great for a sweater.
Try
And
that
it
one.
feels really nice. So sometimes when you knit it too loosely, it doesn't bounce back. Oh, that is amazing.
And then we've also
Here, I'll
got
take that now.
the
Okay.
pure Gotland,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, pure Gotland.
yes.
So this is kind of, it's got like an Icelandic sort of look to it,
Mhm.
hey? So it's got a
Yeah.
longer staple yarn.
Gotland thin blend.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
get this right.
And then you might want to come in for a close-up, Barb. And then I'll take that back here.
What is this one?
It's
But you can kind of,
like it has mohair in it.
yeah.
that's the halo from that longer staple fleece. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it takes dye gorgeously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then
Yeah.
we've actually run out of a lot of our dyed colors,
Right.
and you know, over dyed over the Rambouillet is just
This one's gorgeous.
yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. I
Yeah.
see Stash up here.
I
They're
know.
from Calgary, right?
Yes.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
go check
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah. I love Stash. Yeah.
This girl's spinning, Cynthia.
Mm-hmm. I see that. They do so many things at Stash.
Tracy.
Oh, right, because they've opened up a new shop in Calgary, and I'm just going to get a sign there. It's called Rick Rack. Yeah, and it's fabric.
Oh, isn't that neat?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Look at this cute
Mhm.
display in this little top.
yeah, she's filled the store in Calgary when I was there with all kinds of vintage things. Like, look at this table,
Yeah.
right?
Marilla's mom had one like this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cute.
Mm-hmm.
The skirt.
Yeah. Look at all the beautiful yarn. Mhm. There's lots of Brooklyn tweed back here. Oh, they got the new Brooklyn tweed tones too.
Mm,
Really nice.
lovely.
And look at all these cute little plastic bags, like not bags, what am I trying to say, like baskets.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
Merino blue.
Nice. Oh, and I'm just going to get a shot of the yarn therapist from over here. Because I know. Beautiful.
Isn't she cute?
She is cute. This is a place where you can get all kinds of self-striping yarns, but also the stripe for sweaters, which is really cool.
I
So
like the way she's got her yoke on her sweater.
Yeah.
It's really
It's really nice. Did you catch that wink we got? And then yesterday we went over here to Iron Dog Books. Yeah. Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Hello. All right. All right. Say your name again.
I'm Robert Gilson of RJG Wood Turning.
Perfect. And what got you into wood turning, Robert?
Well, my mother.
Oh.
My mother wanted a bowl, and when I was a kid, so I turned a bowl, and
Nice.
I never forgot that. I can still see it very clearly in my mind's eye. And
I see some yarn bowls there, Robert. Why don't you show me the yarn bowls?
Yeah,
What kind of wood is that?
that's ash.
Okay.
So all of the wood here is from the Lower Mainland. It's all from blowdowns and reclaimed, recycled wood. A lot of it was destined for the chipper from the city of Vancouver or for the fireplace, and I was able to get some of it to be able to turn into these beautiful pieces. These pieces came from a blowdown in New Westminster about 5 years ago. It's a 200-year-old walnut tree. So these pieces are very unique. You'll never find a walnut with this kind of figure in it, you know. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And it's turned quite thin. This is very light weight, but it'll last for years, you know. And these pieces, you know, they're quite stunning in the grain. This is ash. This is a top feeder.
Oh.
So you pull your, it's perfect for a kitten owner. You know, if you,
Yes, it's enclosed, right?
it's enclosed, yeah.
I
This
love the one on the end there, Barb. That one right there.
Yeah, that's spalted cherry. So it's a wild cherry. Right?
This one the same?
That's actually walnut. That came from the same tree as these pieces.
Robert, do you sell your products? You know, do you have a website? Do you sell online?
I have an Instagram called RJG Wood Turning. So join me on Instagram, and I'm trying to post on a regular basis the new stuff that I have.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. All right. Well, we'll let our followers know about your social media post, and we'll show them all the pretty pictures. Thank you
very much. Thank you.
Oh, we might have to go look at the buttons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because this is our friend Lori, who used to
Yes.
live in Edmonton
Yeah.
and has moved, and she now does buttons. So
Wow, okay. So
that's,
this
Okay, so we've had some lunch.
Yeah, we're going to look for the Girl Guide cookies.
Yay! Yay!
So we've been down this lane.
Okay. Yeah, we have. We've been down that one. Yeah.
We haven't been down that one. And
No,
I think
so let's go have a look.
I think the sewing machine or the place is on the next one, but I'm not
Right.
exactly sure.
So we'll go down here and then up the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then up the next one.
Sure.
Oh, there's spin cycle.
Yeah.
Look at all those pretty sweaters up there.
Aren't those gorgeous?
They are gorgeous. Yeah. Nice.
Look
There's
at
a
that
plaid
argyle one, or
Yeah.
plaid. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, and
And
these
we
are
were
the girls.
here. We were here yesterday.
They have that really neat heritage breed.
Yes. Spanish wool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were over at Gage yesterday as
Yes.
well. May have picked up a skein.
I know. I think I should get one though, Cynthia.
Do you?
I do. I think I should get one for a Cecile Campanchero.
Oh,
shawl.
you want to go have a look? Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay, let's keep going. Okay.
Pull me away from
Oh.
that hand-dyed spun yarn.
Doesn't that look amazing? Oh no, here we go. We're going in. Mm-hmm. Wow. Look at this.
I know. Pull me away from this hand-spun
It is
yarn.
beautiful.
Oh my God.
Oh,
It's beautiful. Do you make this?
this, and you're wearing your earrings.
Yes.
Yes.
I had
Nice.
to. I was just like, and they're going on.
Yeah.
Wow, this is
Oh.
just beautiful. How long does it take you to spin a skein like that?
Start to finish, I'm a little on the quicker side right now, about 3 hours.
Okay, so sorry, you said about 3?
About 3 hours a piece. Some of them
Wow.
are a little bit longer if they're a bit bigger, but yeah.
Wow.
And to dye them is probably another couple of hours, so yeah, it's a bit of a labor of love.
See, wouldn't this look amazing in the yoke of a sweater?
Would
I
absolutely.
mean, so pretty.
Yeah, my other favorite way is just like a nice open knit scarf or a cowl, so it still kind of shows off the
Yeah.
stitch texture, but it doesn't have to be knit tightly to be warm.
And then look at this one, like tone on tone. Oh my gosh.
It's baby camel and silk.
Of course it is. Cynthia, this feels amazing. Baby camel and silk.
Pretty much just feels like a dream. A really soft, cozy dream.
Is this the same?
Baby alpaca, that one.
Okay, swoon. This is Louise's cashmere.
Yeah.
It's called Dolce.
It's what is it?
It's cashmere, 100% brushed cashmere. And it has 235 meters, 256 yards on 150-gram skein. I mean, if you had 3 of these, you'd think you had died and gone to heaven.
Oh, and down here there's kid silk.
Yeah,
Mohair?
kid silk, mohair. Oh, look, this is her granola.
Yes.
I'm making a sweater out of this one. I think the color, oh, this is, I want to say this is the color I'm using.
Yes. It's gorgeous.
Beautiful. So this one is merino and hemp.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And it feels so lovely.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we saw this one last time.
This one, oh, this is the Patrick Nets.
Yeah, but I don't think we saw.
Rambouillet.
Yeah.
Non-superwash. Rambouillet merino. Look how fine that is, too.
What's the gauge on that
Oh
one?
my gosh, there's fingering weights, 450 yards,
Okay.
411 meters on 100 grams.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful. Well, the
Nice.
whole booth is just amazing.
Yeah.
Say hi to your
Thank
mom
you.
for us.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Okay, tell us about these, Katie.
So these are all actually hand painted and hand sculpted by a woman in Kyoto.
Oh
So she
my
does every single
gosh.
little one of those faces and everything like that as well.
That's a kitty?
Yeah, it's kitty cat, so it's a little stretchy cat. These guys will actually stand on their own as well. So like if you put them on a flat surface.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been purchasing from her for almost 15 years. She does amazing work all the time.
I have to get one of these for Rayleigh.
It's out of focus in the camera, so
Is it?
that's okay.
Oh.
That's all right. You keep fondling.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll zoom
Will you
in.
put that on hold for me? I'm going to get that.
Oh, those are adorable.
She
Okay,
loves cats. They can't have cats because they have allergies, but
Yeah, well then a little clay cat is even better than right. Yeah.
is it clay?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, tell us about the bags.
Okay, so all the fabrics actually are from Japan. I go over and I source them there myself. At this time, I purchase in Kyoto and Tokyo. And then I come back and I make all the bags in my home studio in Cochrane, which is just outside Calgary.
Nice. And then you bring them to shows like this to share with us.
Yep, exactly.
That's
It
fantastic.
gives me an excuse to buy more fabric.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
I have several of your bags where one handle's longer than the other and you tuck it through.
The knot bag style.
Okay,
Yep.
I love that bag. Yeah.
No, it's been super popular. Actually, the most popular one recently has been these Kato bags. I haven't been able to keep them in stock, basically.
Oh, show us. Which one?
So these ones right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the really nice thing about them that you can do is you can actually create it into like a crossbody bag.
I'll trade you.
Awesome. Yeah. And you can like put it across, and then it's actually got pockets inside and everything like that. And so you're all set up to actually have your whole project or use it as a purse. And you sync it up and actually put it here as well.
Nice.
So this was actually a very, very big deal for me because I wanted to do this when I originally started sewing, but it took me about 10 years to build the skills to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing what we can learn when we have the time.
And put the effort into it.
And you put the effort into it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You've got it right. It takes effort.
Yep. Okay, so we've had a reintroduction of products. These are actually grime guards, so they're for embroidery hoops and frames. And what they'll do is they'll go around the frame or hoop and then they'll hold the fabric so that when you take them off, you can wash this and then the fabric behind it's not as dirty.
Nice.
So not completely foolproof, but you know, it'll mitigate it.
Fit any size of frame?
Right now I've got 9-inch frame and an 8x11 or an 8x11 frame and a 9-inch hoop, which I find seems to be what most people work on these days. So it's just kind of hit those hoops. I'm planning to do a little bit larger frames in future and like a few different hoop sizes. This is what I got done for Knit City, basically. And then some of the other popular products have been the small box bags are like a perennial popular product. They're good for like sock knitting, so you can do like 2 skeins down at the bottom, and then you got that nice space up there for your project. You got your like sweater knit bags as well. These ones will actually hold about 500 to 600 grams of DK weight once you've caked it up, plus your project as well. So it's a really useful size actually. The knot bags, which you love, are they're good for about 2 cakes of worsted weight, and then you can always throw like a bunch of other stuff on top, like your wallet or your phone or anything like that.
Tell us a little bit about the print styles that you have. I see you've got lots of kitties and things like that.
Yeah.
What other fabrics did you bring back from Japan?
Oh my goodness, there's been a lot actually. So I was able to go back in November.
2 or 3 then?
My top picks are probably, I really like this little cat in the like a forest sort of one. I really like the yellow pops and that, like the grell is always super popular and I really like that combo. But other than that, I really enjoy also this cat's like doing things one. But my favorite one is actually, there's a cat that's got like a sexy chicken leg on it. 1 second, he's on the handle here. So this is like, I like the sassy cats that have got some personality. So obviously, I went originally for the cat fabrics, but we've expanded into stuff that's more like Japanese, very bright and cheerful. I love how the Japanese aesthetic's able to put that together different color combos than us.
Yes.
Yeah, and so like stuff that I would never think of here at all, or that we couldn't pull off. It's just really well done. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And I think, yeah, so those are actually good for single skein knits. That was the idea, or like like upsized notions pouch as well, depending on what you want to do with it. But it will fit like a full skein of sock weight, and then the project will tuck in there as well. It's a tight fit at the beginning, but it works. And then we have like the tote bag sizes that are like, so these are like more of an everyday tote that you can use for shopping and everything like that. Leather handles. So it was one of the upgrades I made last year, and then we added some pockets and card slots inside. Yeah. Along with canvas lining, so it's got like a really good heft to it. And then one of my like favorite things I've been doing is I've been working with upcycled obi and kimono. So these come out of temple markets in Kyoto, and then I line them with an upcycled kimono. And then when Caroline and I were there, we did a kimono painting workshop in Kyoto, and I swear that's how this other kimono was done. It was all hand painted, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was a spectacular workshop. So yeah.
I'll let them know next year. Next year's Calgary.
Oh, I was thinking that you could use this for raffle cord.
Ooh.
Yeah. I saw it online when we were talking about it, but I think that might be something.
Oh, and this is where they've got the sparkle.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
A lot of your podcasts.
Do you? Oh, wow. Thank you. We wanted to, thank you.
Oh, this is very good.
What do you do with this?
I will show you what it is.
Okay.
It's a neon, right?
Yeah.
And then when you knit it,
I do some machine knitting, and I was thinking maybe this would be like ravel cord.
you see how cool it looks.
Oh, yes. I just asked Smita, what kind of yarns do you carry? I noticed that you've got some drops. We love drops here.
Oh, I love drops too. So all variety of drops, and so we have boucle, we have Nepal, we have alpaca in drops, we have their sock yarns. I love them. But we also have Murray Wallen, we have Shetland, Jameson Smith, we have Roma. We will be stocking Spin Cycle soon. But you know, we have like Sandnes garn, all kinds of Sandnes garn yarn.
And those are great for sweaters, right?
Very good. Very
carry
good for
Sunday?
sweater. I do carry Sunday, so that's double Sunday, and that's my pressed flowers in double Sunday.
Lovely.
And that Sunday too, my ranunculus, you know, the lime green. That's fingering Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's such a great yarn for sweaters. So if someone wants it, that would be a really nice one to get from you. Would you put together kits?
I would love to. I love to play with the colors.
Okay.
So I would love to be able to put it together, yes.
Okay.
And we ship everywhere.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes.
And do you have a website that people can go to?
Yes, it's called www.yournextknit.com.
Okay, Barb, so we've been talking to so many people today that the battery's running out.
I know. And how are your dogs?
And look there's Colin sneaking up behind us.
Oh my gosh! And look at this Christmas tree.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Isn't it gorgeous?
It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Colin, we've got like 2 minutes of battery left. Come on in here. Come on in here. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. How's the show going for you?
Really good.
Good.
Did you see our blacklight room?
I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming. Maybe have 2 minutes for that?
I hope so.
Okay.
Let's go see Colin's black light room.
Let's do it. Here we go. Oh, this is amazing.
This has been a very big hit this weekend.
Say that one more time.
Yeah.
This has been a very big hit this weekend.
Oh, perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I can see why. This is amazing.
Get out. Okay, so tell us, how did you do this?
Oh,
It's the dyes.
Just the
So
dyes.
these are all blacklight reactive. So you need the blacklight to do that.
Yeah.
right.
Oh my gosh. Honest to God, this is like 1970.
Yes.
Oh, Barb, you're glowing.
Am I?
Yes.
Oh,
look
perfect.
at this. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, here it's blue.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Look at that.
It'll
Oh,
So
that's
come a little bit closer. There we go, Colin. Now we've got you on a mic. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're using light reactive dyes.
Yeah, so black light reactive.
Okay.
So in the black light is how it makes it glow.
So is that hard to dye with?
No,
Is it the yarn or the dye?
it's the dye.
The dye.
The dye, yeah.
So cool.
that's so cool.
Well, that's the end of our videos, Barb. I hope you enjoyed it.
Wasn't that a lot of fun? I thought that was great. It's so nice to get an inside look into classes, development, and Knit City. Wow.
Yeah, we did a lot of filming.
Mhm.
Next month, we've got more treats in store for you. We're going to be taking a trip to Colorado and we're going to visit a yarn shop there. And we've got some interviews lined up, quite possibly with a dyer and most definitely with another instructor. So we want you to come back and join us again next month. But
Great. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you had a great time. And if you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button and come on back next month and join us.
That's right. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.